The Book of Khalid.
The former Harold X had rode shotgun with Farrakhan when the leader had nobody. When they went to places for Farrakhan to speak, and the auditorium would be nearly empty. During times when Farrakhan lacked confidence and appeared unsure of himself, Khalid was there for him. Therefore, while hurt and angry, Khalid was unwilling to bite his tongue with his mentee, Malik Zulu Shabazz, about how he was feeling. My stomach was tied up in knots all day and night, all of the time, Khalid repeatedly said, referring to his worries over his relationship with Farrakhan. One day, Khallid Muhammad told me, "Brother Malik Zulu Shabazz, I don't have any friends anymore. You are the only friend I have." That statement literally blew my mind. The situation worsened when Khalid claimed the NOI leader indirectly threatened his life in a speech following his return from New York for the World Friendship Tour. Before a packed crowd at Friendship Baptist Church in Brooklyn, Farrakhan allegedly said, addressing rivals who were allegedly seeking his seat over the house of Elijah Muhammad, "If you come against this, we will kill you." Khalid relayed this to me, explaining that afterward, many people in the audience warned him to be careful, believing Farrakhan was speaking directly to him from the front row. Perhaps Farrakhan was responding to rumors that Khalid had alleged he had deviated from the teachings. Whatever the source of Farrakhan's anger, he was making one thing clear: his way, and only his way, would be tolerated.
I heard Tony Muhammad say that the minister was reaching out for Khallid Muhammad and didn't get any response from him. I know he reached out for him on numerous occasions, made it like he was always available to talk with you at any time about everything, and if there was a misunderstanding, this must have been something on your part, because the minister had done everything that he possibly could have to keep clarity in the forefront.
Well, as I said, Tony Muhammad does not know what was going on. It's a goddamn lie. Don't care who tells it. That Minister Farrakhan has been reaching out for me. That's a damn lie. For years, I called Minister Farrakhan over and over and over again. For years, I tried to meet with him. It got to the point after my assassination attempt when not one public mumbling word was ever stated by him, never spoken by him about my assassination attempt. Didn't come to see me at the hospital, didn't call me, didn't send me a nickel, a penny, nor a dime. You say, well, he ain't obligated to do none of that. Well, I would have done it for him. I don't care what. I couldn't have known that he was in that condition or position and not go to his aid. He sent his son, he sent Sharif, he sent a few others, but I called him from the hospital. He never called me. I communicated with him. He was right in Vegas, and that ain't too far by plane from Los Angeles. And he didn't come right over from Vegas. Even if he would have been in another part of the world, but he wasn't in another part of the world. He wasn't in Chicago, and he wasn't anywhere but right in Vegas, and he didn't come over. But even after that, my love for the man was so strong until I kept calling. I kept thinking everything was going to work out, and that what happened with Malcolm and the messenger 30 years ago, that Farrakhan and Khalid could put a positive period behind that 30 years later today. I would call over and over and over. I think sometimes the secretary felt sorry for me. And if I'd call, and sometimes every now and then I'd call early in the morning, he would answer the phone. And I would get to speak to him after I called many times prior to that and couldn't get to leave message after message after message. This went on for 2 years. And for sure a year and a half that I didn't speak to him, except for once or twice. And he set a meeting. Yes, he did, to be specific and clear and accurate. He set a couple of meetings with me. He set one where I was in L.A. and he was going to be in New York. I mean, I tore up getting to the East Coast. They lost my baggage. I didn't have a suit, and I wanted to be what we call suited and booted when I saw him. I went and bought a suit, made the people do the alterations on the suit. I'm so excited, anxious. I'm getting ready to meet with my leader and teacher and spiritual father. I waited that night. Finally, about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I received a call from Brother Sharif of the Supreme Captain of the FOI that the minister can't meet with you tonight. He said, give him a call later on. I was so disappointed. Finally, we were about to meet. I kept calling and kept calling. I still couldn't get him. I couldn't get him. Tony knows how this works because Tony went through on a lower level. On another level, Tony Muhammad went through the same thing in Atlanta, Georgia. They would put him out of the mosque all the time. He'd try to get to the minister for some kind of relief. This went on for years with Tony Muhammad. So I sent a letter, but this time I heard about all the rumors that Malcolm's letters were sent, and maybe they didn't reach the message. So I sent the letter by brothers that I knew, a brother in particular, and would ask because his daughter would be there, and he would be there with his daughter, and he would put the letter in the minister's hand, and I want him to see if the minister would open it in his presence, and he did. So I knew the letter reached him. Then I started saying, look, I'm talking about years are passing. Then I started saying, well, I can't get through to him by letter. I can't get through to him through his secretary. I can't get through to him with the meetings that he has set up. He postponed another meeting that I was excited and so happy and looking forward to. I said, I'm going to start going where he speaks and get there early and sit on the front row or the second row right in front of the rostrum, or if it's in a church, in front of the pulpit or the podium. So I'll be right there. If he spilled water, he would spill it on me. And I'll be right in his face like, here I am, I'm here, you know, will you meet with me? Can you see me? I would get on the goddamn front row, sitting there almost crying openly, but certainly all the time crying inside and sneaking to wipe a tear every now and then so everybody wouldn't see me or see me as being now weak. And when it's over, try to rush up to meet with him. He might even speak and refer to me back and forth in a positive manner in the audience. I remember when he came back from his friendship tour, I was right there at Friendship Baptist Church in Brooklyn. He referred to me and put me in the line with the Honorable Marcus Garvey and Du Bois and others. And then a little while later, he didn't have to be talking to me, but everybody thought he was, including me. He said, if you turn against this, we will kill you if you turn against this. And we went on to say, because if you try to mess this up, you are worthy of death. So everybody say, when it's over, brother, you be careful. Did you hear what he said? I said, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I heard what he said. And he said, well, I said, well, I'm not sure he was talking to me. I don't know. In my mind, I was saying, God damn it, he was talking to me. But I was sitting there. His wife, when she turned around, she realized I was there. When it was over, she hugged me, seemed like she was happy to see me. And I thought I would get to talk to him that night. They told me Brother Sharif came out in the audience to that first row or so where I was and said, Minister said, give him a call later on in the week. So I called all that week. I didn't get to him. So finally, the Million Man March was coming up. And everybody was asking, you're talking about atonement and reconciliation. What about Khalid? What about Khalid? Reverend Al Sharpton says that he had conversations with Minister Farrakhan. And he said, look, in words, the people ain't asleep. Those are my words. In words, he said this. He said, talking about atonement, but the people are trying to figure out why you want to, what's the problem with atoning with Khalid? How come you can't get with Khalid? He said, it doesn't sound right. You're talking about atonement, but you can't get with Khalid. Then people, when they were traveling on the tour to pump up the Million Man March, people were asking, what about Khalid? What you're talking, all this talk about atonement and reconciliation, what about Khalid? I spoke at Howard University there in D.C., and Source magazine was present, and they came out with this piece, thinking of a master plan. Can Khallid Muhammad, in words, I don't remember, impact on hip-hop and rap with his Black Power message, about 8 pages. And that night, based on intelligence gathering and information, I mentioned Abdul Alim, Dr. Alim, as helping to set the tone or create the climate for my assassination attempt, that he was one of them, based on what Minister Farrakhan had told me out of his mouth. When he said to me that Alim called him right after my assassination attempt, Minister Farrakhan said he didn't even know that there had been an assassination attempt on my life. That for some reason he didn't watch TV that evening. He was tired. He went in. He went to sleep. He didn't know nothing all that night. He found out about it much later, and then Alim called in a panic on the phone. And he told him, don't put whatever it was on the phone, come to Chicago. And then Alim came to Chicago and said that he had been talking back and forth to former Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, servant of the truth Muhammad, a slave named James Best. And that they had been talking back and forth, and that they had also met in D.C. at a Lyndon LaRouche conference, and that he thought the conversation that they both had about me, that he might have helped push James Best over the edge or helped set the climate. So I said that night at Howard University, you got an old nigger in this town, an old Negro in this town, who helped set the climate, so-and-so, old Alim Muhammad. And it came out in the Source magazine. So they were having a national laborers meeting, and Tony Muhammad was no doubt sitting in that audience when he said I was there. They didn't bring me in to bring me back. They brought me in and questioned me about what I had said about Alim. And then I told them, none of them knew this. Old Leonard Farrakhan, the chief of staff and son-in-law, the Supreme Captain Sharif, the son and assistant Supreme Captain Mustafa, I don't know who, and Alim was in the room. Everybody else was in the University of Islam gymnasium at the national ministers, captains, secretaries, and all of the national laborers, where I assume Tony Muhammad was, that he was referring to. And I said to all of them, look, I didn't make this up. I got this from the minister's mouth. I said, but I didn't say that night at Howard University because I didn't want the minister implicated in being the source of the information. And they were all like shocked. The minister said that. I said, and I told Alim, it was the minister who told me that you said it himself. So they were, and then I got on all of them because we spent a couple of hours or so in there. All they were doing was, it looked like Alim was supposed to be getting some money or something from the government for some AIDS research or for this. Then they felt it was going to hurt that, all the different security contracts. And then they were talking about, because the Jews were on them because of me, and fighting them not to have any more federal housing contracts because of this racist, anti-Semitic image that they were using, that quote-unquote, according to the Jews, that was being used by the Jews, so-called Jews. And on top of that, they didn't want Alim brought into court, hauled into court on conspiracy to commit murder charges, they said. So I said, I don't know what degree he was involved. He tried to make it appear that he wasn't. And I said, but when you have an assassination attempt, you're almost killed and 4 or 5 other people get shot around you. I said, you leave no stone unturned, and everybody is suspect. I say, but they said, well, the minister's waiting for us in the gym, and he's ready to bring you back, and we want you to work with us on the Million Man March. And all of the laborers are over there waiting for you, but the minister wants to know that we've resolved about this over here. I said, well, I can't go out there and lie. I said, but I will say this. I will say that I feel that it was unfair of Source Magazine not to ask my permission, and that I wouldn't want any unfairness to have to follow Aleem around the rest of his life. I will at least say that I told, and I did, I called Source and told him to stop that part of it. Don't print it. Leave it out. I called him, I can't count how many times I called. Maybe I called 6 or 7 times. And they claimed they would, and then they claimed it was too late. I talked to some, I can't think of the brother's name right now, he was one of the top editors or something. Then he said it was already going to press. So I said I thought it was unfair when I had tried to stop that part of it, especially if we were all coming back together. So they took me on out. That was enough to clear Aleem, if I would say that. So I went on out, and they all cheered and applauded when they brought me up, and the minister brought me up. Of course, it was a touching moment for me. There was a while before I could say anything, and I stood and cried. Some others cried in the audience. Some of my staunchest enemies, as Malcolm had during his day, and as Minister Farrakhan had during his day back then, they didn't applaud too much, and they didn't shed no tears at all. I looked for them to study their faces. And I went on to say that I would try to be more profound and less profane. I didn't mean saying "God damn it" and all that. I meant that which offended whatever the minister's policy was, and all of that. Let's be more profound and less profane, I said. And I was officially brought back. I thought the paper came out saying that Khallid Muhammad resumes post, because I wasn't clear, and I called back to headquarters, and the secretary couldn't tell me what my return meant. And I had to wait for the paper. I said, whatever the paper says, that's it. When the final call came out, it said resumes his post. So that put everybody to sleep. All the people stopped asking questions about Khallid Muhammad. We now, right up to the time of the Million Man March, it cooled that whole thing out. But the paper said he's returning as a minister. A minister. I said, oh, this ain't right. This is something funny. If I'm resuming my post, I was the top minister in the Nation of Islam. National assistant. When he appointed me national assistant, he said in front of everybody, there's nobody between you and me now, brother. And he went on to say what kind of minister he needed over the rest of the ministers. And now you have a stern taskmaster. He's skilled in debate. There's none of you who are greater in the knowledge of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he's the best that I have. He went through all of that with all of his ministers. And said he was putting me over the ministers' class. But for it to say a minister, I knew that meant something was wrong, because it didn't say I was being restored to my post as national assistant and representative for him. And I called the next day, and I said, she said he was not available, his secretary, Sophia. I said, sister, that's Sophia. I said, sister, let him know that I read the paper. Let him know that I'm ready. I'm standing by for any instructions. Whatever he wants me to do, I'm ready to do it. Let him know. We had that little brief meeting. He told Sharif and he told Mustafa, his son. He said, I'm bringing him back. He said, the original plans we had for him, who has been my top captain and top minister, to help the two of you bridge the gap between the ministers and captains. We're ready to implement the program now. We can pull the nation together. We're ready to implement the program. And because he said to me, if you want to go on and start your own movement, I won't fight you. And I'll tell them now, don't fight him. And he decides to do that. I said, no, sir, brother minister. I want to be with you. I want to be at your side, and I want to help you. And that's when he said, all right, we're ready to implement the program. And I thought that's what it meant. So I kept calling. Nobody ever got back with me. I kept saying I'm ready to go. But they did let me, when the other ministers who loved me read it in the paper, several of them invited me to their cities right away to help pump up the Million Man March in their city. But the day before the Million Man March, Attorney Malik Shabazz and I and some others, and Brother Steve, we had the Black Nationhood Black Holocaust Conference hosted by Attorney Malik Shabazz. And all night, that night, different officials of the Nation of Islam, in particular Ben Chavis, who I'll never call Benjamin Muhammad, I can't get, what's his son's last name? Leonard Farrakhan was saying that this is not a Million Man March event because the TV and CNN, C-SPAN was carrying it as a pre-Million Man March event. They were encouraging the people not to come and everything. They had been sending security for me in every city, including in D.C., where I had spoken for the Million Man March. That night, they sent no security. The night before the Million Man March, Reverend Sharpton, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, different ones that were supposed to be on the program. I think Dr.
And Karinga.
Maulana Karenga, certainly Dr. Karenga and Reverend Sharpton opted not to be on our program after they had accepted that night. I don't know their reasons. Now, Reverend Sharpton said that he had another engagement and there was some problem with the flight. We had to take him at his word. Dr. Karenga gave some acceptable reason for not being there also. We had to take him at his word. But they did not appear with us that night. Dr. Welsing didn't show. I think Dr. Jeffries came. He came, but they didn't let him speak, I don't think, the next day at the Million Man March.
I think you're absolutely correct about that.
Upton and Karenga were able to speak. Reverend Sharpton and Dr. Karenga they had to make a choice. Whether they told them they had to make a choice or not, I think they made it relatively clear that you either speak over there with him or you speak over here with us at the Million Man March on the mall here.
Hey, Brother Khalid, you got any closing statements before we close out this program?
Yeah, just a couple of closing statements. I hate to hear Minister Tony Muhammad, who I know very well and I trained him and taught him, have many tapes where he tells the audience how he was with me every day and how I trained him beyond any shadow of a doubt. I hate to hear him or any member of the nation talk about, don't mess with us. We got all this pent-up frustration. Did they say that?
Yes.
I hate to hear that because there seems to be this readiness to beat up black people, this readiness to kill a black man. You know, you got all this pent-up frustration for a black man. But where's your goddamn pent-up frustration for the white man?
That's right.
I don't hear you beating up no white folks. They come and shut your damn mosque down. Put your shit on the street.
White men do their shit on the street with the sheriff.
And you didn't. What about all your pent-up frustration then? What about Brother James Byrd Jr.? You, the disciplined, trained FOI, could have gone to that town and made a big difference among the black people and done a whole lot to put a whole lot on a whole lot of Peckerwood mines, not only in Jasper, but all. Be permitted in any mosque in the Nation of Islam. I experienced Tony Muhammad and experienced gathering any information to really know. And I don't want no goddamn friend who is my friend if it's all right to be my friend because somebody else says it's all right. Here's a man I ain't never done nothing to him. And he really ain't ain't seen me do nothing to Minister Farrakhan. I don't have the power to do nothing to Minister Farrakhan. I would have been back. I probably would have subordinated a lot of my feelings and my drive to fight this goddamn beast. But I saw the nation doing a lot of changes and turns. I would have even probably tried to make all the changes and turns. But after the door was closed in my face, after the phone communication and phone lines were cut off, but no open lines of communication for me, after me showing up in person over and over, hoping that would do it, sending letters, after a point, you got to move on with your life. So I decided if there's no place for me where I'd love to be in the Nation of Islam, I've got to now, I have to stand up and fight this beast the way that I feel that God has put it in me to fight this beast. That's my position.
And brother, one last thing. I was changing the tape when you made the comment about whether or not you would allow someone to shoot at you again.
I said I would never. That's another reason, not just to stand up with our God and with our guns to set an example of self-determination and self-defense for black men all over America and the world, and black women and black youth, that we will begin to defend ourselves wherever we are. Not just, that's the primary reason, but another reason, the secondary reason is no one will ever shoot at me again. And we not be able to shoot back or catch you going for your stuff and deal with you appropriately. I hope you got the rest of it about the security system, where we don't do a lot of checking and a lot of play. We check some places, but we try to keep as many guns around as possible. They say, well, Khallid don't believe in Allah. You don't believe in God. That's why you got them guns. I believe in God. I believe in Allah. And I believe in the gun. And I believe that God will bless us to shoot straight when it's time to shoot straight.
Can't beat that, brother. I love you, brother. I need to figure out a time, either tonight or in the morning, that we go through some of this tape so that you can be as best prepared as possible.